All right, we're here with head coach Todd McLoughlin with Tri-Valley Boys basketball going into the Sweet 16. They'll be taking on Warren this Thursday, but Coach, really appreciate you taking time out of your day to join us this afternoon. Back-to-back district champs, man. I mean, that's pretty impressive. And a 20-plus point win over East Liverpool. You guys played really well. I mean, all in all, when you look at the season in totality to this point, I mean, how impressed are you with what you've done and what this team has done to not only win it once, but you come back and do it again?
You're absolutely correct. It's tough to win a district championship, but for us to go back to back, and I think this is only the second time in Tri Valley history. I think they had a situation in 80-81 to do it, but for us to go back to back, and we've had a great year. We really have, and the kids, we've kind of faced some adversity from injuries to kids being sick, and you start looking back at the journey that we've gone over the last 3 or 4 months, and it's been a great ride. And I'm really happy for these kids to be able to experience this opportunity. Obviously we're going to be facing a really good Warren team, and but we're just happy to be there, and we're looking forward to the challenge tomorrow night.
So when you look at your schedule this year, I mean, because I feel like teams always want to kind of have your kids battle tested, going into the tournament and everything. When you look at the schedule you played, like you added a team like Upper Arlington this year and beat them at the buzzer. I mean, how do you think your schedule prepared this team for this tournament run and now this Sweet 16 where it's kind of a whole new ball game? How do you think your schedule kind of helped you prepare for this tough road ahead?
I think it helps us a lot. I mean, truly, we start back in summer, and we start to play teams that basically kick our butt. And you know what? We kind of learn that, from the size to speed and just the different styles of play that we face during the summer. Then you schedule our non-league, which is pretty tough. I mean, you look at Hilliard Bradley, who's also in the Division One regionals. A very good DeSales team, Upper Arlington.
Right.
So those teams, night in, night out, they play against great competition. And I do think it helps us prepare for opportunities like we're getting ready to face for tomorrow night.
So you were at this point last year, and I was talking to Max yesterday, and Max said that this year kind of feels a little bit different. Like they showed up to the Convo this week to practice, and it felt like, I mean, they were there last year, but it felt like they had been there before. Like the moment didn't feel too big, the environment didn't feel bigger than what it was. Even though there's a lot on the line and there's a lot of pressure, chance to go to the Elite Eight, Final Four, and all those things. But was that kind of your observation this week in practice with the guys? Is that like they seem a lot more comfortable this year than maybe they were last year?
You're absolutely correct. And the kids were stretching up in the warm ups that day, and one of the kids said, "Man, this place doesn't seem as big this year, even though, even though it is." But a few of them even mentioned, "Man, coach, I was really nervous last year. You walk out in front of all these people and get to play in this great arena." But at practice, they seemed a lot more focused and relaxed, and hopefully they're ready for the challenge. And I do believe that years of experience playing there in front of the big crowd and playing on that big floor, I think it will help our kids.
What do you think that you and the team learned from last year? Is it just as simple as like playing in front of a big crowd in such a big gym, or were there specific lessons from last year's game? Even though this is a different team this year and players are a year older, they've evolved as players and there's some new players and whatnot. But is there anything that you pulled from last year's finish to the season that kind of applies now?
No, I really believe, I think just the experience alone, some of the adversity we faced, and again, playing different levels of competition, whether it's in the summertime or the teams that we played this year, and the experience being in the same situation last year, I definitely think it's going to help our kids. I sure hope it is anyway.
Yeah. Now with this Warren team, that like you mentioned, they're a pretty good team. I mean, all the teams are at this point, right? But they do have a big kid on their squad who stands at like 6'7", 6'8", which is not something that most teams are able to replicate in a practice setting. So I mean, how do you prepare for not only that, but then just everything else that they do, whether it's offensively spacing guys out, shooting the basketball, getting inside, running, everything they do defensively? Like, what have you seen on film, and what are you trying to do with your guys to get ready?
We're not going to change a whole lot from what we do. And then again, going back to the experience standpoint, there are multiple teams this year we played that had guys that were bigger than us. For example, the 6'9" kid from Upper Arlington, who was recently offered by Indiana University.
Hmm.
Hilliard Bradley had guys, the 6'6" kid from Fairfield Union. So we've faced some taller kids. And I mean, we're not going to change a whole lot what we're doing defensively. Depending on what sets they run, I mean, we might have to adjust according to what sets they're getting ready to run. But they also have a really good point guard in the Stadium One kid. So with the Taylor kid and the Stadium One kid being 6'7" and a true point guard, they run a lot of isolation stuff. So we're going to have to be ready for that. But they do present us some problems in certain areas. So, but we're not going to change what we do.
Yeah, Max brought up a good point yesterday that guys as big as that they don't like to be pushed around too much, and so he's talked about being physical and just using your athleticism to make things uncomfortable for him. Has that kind of been like what your message has been to everybody on the team? Is like, hey, let's just push them around. Let's be more physical than them and let's outrun them.
Yeah, and our kids understand, even from playing in last year's game. I think our kids understand when you get this far along the physicality of the game. The referees let you play a little bit more. Typically, let the players decide the game. So, hopefully we can go out and be aggressive, from the tip and not take a back seat. Obviously, we want to win any 50-50 ball, and we don't want to get out hustled. But those are some things that we kind of preach to our kids day in and day out. Just be the tougher team, both mentally and physically.
Now, I know obviously the goal is to win and keep moving on, and hopefully it ends in a state championship that you're holding up at the end of this thing. But how much does it mean to you, just like as a coach, just as a leader of like these young men, to continue to, I guess, like live to fight another day? You survive in advance, you move on to another round, another week of practice, you play another game together. Like as a coach with these young men, how does that, like, how much do you value just the time together playing basketball, like win or lose, whatever happens, just the time that you spend with everybody?
You're exactly right. When you spend this much time, we told these guys as coaches that they might not appreciate what they've accomplished already and the opportunities that they have in front of them, but maybe 20, 30 years from now, when they have a family and kids, and say, hey, we made it this far, we were a part of this, we had a great team. So you try to instill in those guys that cherish the moment, but don't let it get too big, and just we'll go out and play your best and enjoy the journey. Enjoy this journey, no matter what happens, where it takes us.
Well, we're excited to watch it tomorrow, Coach. A chance to get to the Elite Eight, and it's been amazing just following you guys all year, back-to-back district champs. So congratulations to this point, but good luck this Thursday against Warren and the rest of the way. And we really appreciate you taking time out of your day to join us on a podcast for a few minutes.
Absolutely glad to help. All right, take care, and we'll talk to you soon.